my session timed out. So as I was saying, I wanted to thank Silent7 and Cocoa Piffs for following the channel while I was offline. So I'm going to do an ongoing series going through Elder Scrolls Online and looking at design systems and design decisions, and not necessarily saying anything is good or bad, but kind of discussing why something is a smart decision or how it's useful. Because what might be good in this game may not be good in another. So we'll start. I'm going to start a brand new character, so we can talk about introducing new players to your game. And most of the systems that I'm going to talk about will be specific to MMOs, just because ESO is an MMO. But yeah, let's get going. So make a new character real quick. So it's cool that right up front they have these very important things, like you have gender, and you can choose male or female, of course. And then you have your alliance, and then you have your race, and then you have your class. So given the importance of race and class in terms of how it affects your ability to play the game, I may have chosen to have those more up front, but it's not to say that what they did is either right or wrong, because Elder Scrolls games are about making your character and making somebody who can play the way you want to. So, but yeah, I'm going to play Aldmeri Dominion because I like playing AD. My friends are on AD. Yeah. That is another thing worth discussing too. So you have these different factions. New players may not realize immediately that you are stuck with this faction. So you have this kind of thing that tells you about each faction, surrounded by enemies. The Bretons, Redguards, and Orcs of the... I'm going to mispronounce stuff, I'm sorry in advance. The Iliac Bay have united to form the Daggerfall Covenant. They fight to protect their people and, if possible, save all Tamriel from the dire forces that threaten it. So it's cool that they have these little backgrounds on each one. What's not cool is that they don't explain, if you aren't in the same alliance as your friends, you guys can't play on the same side in PvP. That may be implicit to some, but to others it's not clearly explained up front. So that is one thing I personally would have changed about how they did this. Gender, there's no kind of tooltip with that. But yeah, so... And then when you look at your class, or your race rather, you have, kind of gives you a rundown. These guys are Masters of the Arcane, giving them bonuses to Magicka, Magic Recovery, Light Armor, Alliance Points, Skill Gain, and Spell Resistance. I'm like, okay, cool. That guy's good for Magic. Red Guards, see a lot of things about shields and stamina regeneration. I'm like, alright, so shields, probably good as tanks. It's very high level what each one is good at, and that can be good or bad. So the good side is it doesn't dump too much information on a new player all at once. The bad is the more experienced players who are experienced with MMOs and are okay with having lots of information up front don't get that until they get into the game, or they have to look it up online, which means they're leaving your game to do things, which is not necessarily the best user experience. So I'm going to go Imperial. They get more gold, increase to Magicka and stamina. They have good shields, good health, recovery. And I have never played a Templar in this game, so I'm going to play Templar. And this is one thing that I thought was interesting, so you can cycle through and see what your character is going to look like end game. So if you wanted to see like different armor sets, you could go back and do that very easily. But yeah, Imperial. Templar. And then you can view your dude without gear so that you can go through, kind of adjust how they look. So I want to try and do some kind of stamina build, something, so I'm going to make a really buff dude. Actually, yeah, okay. So another thing that I kind of like is that you can just randomize what your dude looks like for the people who aren't quite sure what they want, but want to find a baseline very quickly. This guy looks cool. They all pretty much look pretty cool. Yeah, we'll go with this guy. And we shall name him... him. So this is another good thing that they did. So the Whaling Prison is kind of the tutorial area. And because I have other characters and I've completed it, I can skip this content. Normally if I'm making a new character, I would do this if I'm just interested in leveling them up very fast. But I'm going to play through it to talk about the tutorial systems that they use to introduce content to players and mechanics and whatnot. Him is already in use. I got to rename him something else. Any suggestions in chat? What should we name this person? About good sir. Oh, I don't want that all caps. Of Cyrodiil. That should not be taken. Play. Oh, her? That would have been clever, Sinks. Sorry, I didn't see that until just now.
Oh, damn, you died?
So I'm going to go ahead and hop out of guild chat real quick.
Third dip.
Self-plug from third dip. I don't know why I didn't show your comment in the stream. Let me see if I can adjust that setting real quick. Broadcast settings. It doesn't look like I can do it right now. Okay. So yeah. So it starts you out with a quick tooltip. This moves you around. And it says move forward. Most games that start in this first-person view, it's pretty intuitive that you can look around. So they're playing on, common mechanics. So if you've played a first-person game before, you know that if this moves you forward, this lets you look around. Yeah, so you move forward, and immediately...
Are you all right?
You're introduced to a friend.
The name's Lyris. I hope you've still got some fight left in you. You're going to need it.
So for the people that would have been frustrated jumping up and down, trying to open this while it said open and that was grayed out, when it turns white, you know, oh, now this is an option.
Dead. have been the runt of the litter.
So right from the get-go, they're teaching you how to loot, so how to do things in the world. Most people will get a lot of their stuff by looting. The one thing that the game did is it automatically equipped the weapon for you, because you didn't have anything in that slot. And it teaches you how to pull your weapon out. So this is all just very kind of basic mechanics. So the game pauses and gives you time to kind of
There are more Daedra on the way.
just take down an enemy. So it's really quick, instantly rewarding, like, oh, this is how I attack things. So one thing that I think is interesting is it showed how much damage I did. The reason you might not want to do that is you might want to keep your UI simple. So if you see right now, like, all I have is my quest, my compass, my reticle, and that's it. That's all I can see that's kind of going on. I get into a fight, and now I can see my resources. And so it's a great way to introduce players to things because it keeps it nice and simple. And if you'll notice, this person just keeps charging their special attack and even came close to me so that I can interrupt them. So it's making sure that the player learns that mechanic.
Let's get out of here, my friend. The Prophet.
The other thing that they're kind of hoping players understand is if they want to play in third person, that they know from other Elder Scrolls games to press down on the D-pad. That is never really explicitly told to the player.
Come here. We need to talk.
So now they're teaching you how to do dialogue and interact with other NPCs.
He's a prisoner here too. It was very dangerous for him to speak to you even for a moment. You must think you can help me.
So this is
Break him out, of course. Believe
your first
me,
call to
I'll
action.
use all the help I can get. That blind old man is the only person alive who can help us get back home. Tamriel's a long way from here.
So when, you know, there's the big reason for an introductory quest in a game is to have an initial thing that draws players in that, you know, you don't necessarily have to do that. There's games that absolutely just say, like, here is my world, explore it. But this gives you an initial call to action, so it provides some very focused guidance early on to make sure that they can construct an experience that should teach you mechanics as you progress through the game that will equip you to handle later content.
These tunnels will eventually take us to the Towers of Eyes. That's where we'll find the Sentinels. Magical constructs created by Molag Bal to guide his vision in Cold Harbor. The Sentinels are connected. If we destroy one, the others will be blinded. With any luck, that will buy us the time we need to free the Prophet. I've no idea. Brute force? We'll find a way. We have to. Be ready for anything. I doubt Molag Bal left the Sentinels unguarded.
I do not have so many questions, so I shall just say farewell.
We should keep moving.
So I'm going to stay in first person just to see if a tooltip ever comes up to let me know that I can go into third person. Oh, this is another thing that I love that they did. So they have a take and a take all. That's great UI design because you're going to have players that want to just pick up everything all the time, and that allows them to do that more efficiently, more quickly, so that they can experience more of the game. So instantly, I know that guy's a bad guy. They introduced that he is difficult, based on the little bars beside his name. I've got a nice red glow to let me know he's a bad guy. And so I'm just going to slowly hack away, not really try. Let's get this going quicker.
Well played, friend. Arcase Beard, you are good in a fight.
Cool. And so
Knows of your escape. Hurry.
So they give you a sense of urgency. You know, you get to hear from the Prophet again. You get the sense that he's important. And now it's telling me how to level up, which is very important for new players to understand. And they even put little arrows like, hey, these are the things that are new for you. So even if I try to do skills first, it makes me slot points into magicka, health, or stamina, which is great because you might have people who don't understand that they should do both and end up overlooking this. So it's a little bit handholdy, but it's also more efficient. So like, rather than having to go here, and this kind of, you know, nice little tutorial, this explains how this all works. You know, if I'm, rather than have to go to character and then to skills, if I jump right into skills, I get a quick idea of what everything does. Yeah, orders. I'm gonna try and do... I'm gonna try a health build for a change. Let's see how this works. I'll do a health tank, Templar, yeah. Cool, and now it lets me know how skills work, and that they are active abilities. The only thing I might change differently is just make the R button, the scroll thing, a little bit bigger so that you know how to scroll. And the only reason for that is TVs are getting bigger and bigger, and so with TVs getting bigger, UI for whatever reason is getting smaller, and it can be more difficult to read. Cool, now I know how to level up and slot skills. So I will do... a healing ability, just to make my playthrough a little easier. Cool. And then I can search the cart and continue to be a hoarder.
The god of schemes can see every part of Cold Harbor. We need to distract him.
Cool. So now you're in a much larger area. Before I was in tunnels and it was very guided. This is a lot more open. And so what they've done is now they've introduced me to the map system. So, you know, I see that I have got 2 quest markers in the upper right, or in the upper part of the screen, and now I can kind of look at this. And then they have on here, you know, your UI below to let you know how everything works. The one thing that I would have done differently with set destination and your legend is I would have used a different icon for that. So you could do L3 and R3 and then make them look like sticks that are clicking in rather than just circles. Just to kind of convey that you need to click, because if somebody came in and started using L3 to try and look up the legend and ended up doing this, they might be a little confused. One of the things about UX is that you have to kind of cater to the lowest common denominator. So UX is user experience for those that don't know. So you need to assume like people are going to have a very rough time figuring something out, so you need to spell it out for them as much as you can. Cool. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, I'll play this through like a new player might. So normally I would run around and run to all the chests that I know where they're at. But let's say I'm a new player who just wants to get on with the quest. So this is the one thing that I don't love about their UI. And so I've got this big thing on the door. I walk through the door, and it looks like it jumped behind me. So if I didn't understand that this is where I want to head, and I turned around to the left, I wouldn't see that. Let's deal with this guy. Big Q to let me know that he's bad.
What was your name again? Target practice?
And they set the other thing that they did very well is there's a lot of rewarding things up front. So it's very easy to level up. I killed one enemy and leveled up Restoring Light. Which is the ability bar that I used. Oh, wait, I don't know this yet. I'm a new player. So it stops me. I can't run into where this thing might spot me. And it tells me, here's how you sneak. So it constructs these scenarios to set you up for success early on in the game. And the other thing that's been really good about Elder Scrolls is this eye, and you see it close so that you know it takes a while for you to become hidden, and then it says hidden once the eye is closed. So if you've never played Skyrim before and didn't understand that mechanic, it's still very intuitive. It's not something you need to learn. Alright, so now I'm going to head for my next quest objective.
Fool! You will never escape my realm.
Hermamora's wagging tongue. The door's warded. We'll never get in this way.
Alright. And then talk to Lyris.
Damn it. Destroying the Sentinel must have triggered these wards. We'll need to find another way in. Maybe Cadwell can help us. Cadwell is the oldest of the Soul Shriven. After years of torment, Soul Shriven usually go insane and turn feral. But not Cadwell. He was already insane before he left Tamriel. Mad as a box of frogs, but completely harmless. You'll see. Cadwell sees things as he wishes them to be. To him, Cold Harbor is a wondrous place. It's his home. And he knows it like the back of his hand. He's usually down by the river. Let's go find him.
Cool, so all that helps set up and kind of establish that this is a bad place and people here are crazy if they're able to even speak. And so that's a great way to kind of introduce people to the lore of your game, to do some kind of scene setting. You know, and I'll do some later discussions on level design when the housing update comes out. But, you know, you can kind of see, like, there's dead plants, and, you know, you look up and it's a cloudy sky. Like, there's nothing positive about this place, and that might be a bad way to introduce players to your game, but at the same time, it also gives you a reason to want to leave this area, because it does feel somewhat oppressive.
In the middle of the night, two dead kings got up to fight. Back to back, they faced each other, drew their bows, and stabbed themselves.
Cool, so just, you know, quick discussion and character. Who is moaning? Okay, those people like to moan, apparently. So, you know, quick discussion and character design. We're told that this guy is a madman. And, you know, they give him a lute, and he plays it out of key, and he's wearing a pot for a hat, and his eyes have gone white from blindness or madness, you know, seeing something he shouldn't have, or, you know. He's eating spoiled food and appears to be drinking quite heavily. Like, they kind of set up a lot in his character design to let you know he's a bit bonkers.
Sir Cadwell, yes, indeed, a pleasure. And fair Lyris, good to see you, my dear. How are you then? Oh dear. Well, that is inconvenient, isn't it? Tell you what, I happen to know another way in. Much more of a scenic route. Rather a fun little jaunt, actually, full of traps and corpses and nasty beasties filling up the bits in between. Rather cautiously, I expect. Watch your step. hold your nose, and do mind the traps. There'll like as not be a fair dose of running and skull bashing as well. Follow the river. You'll find the door to the Undercroft at the water's end. Once you're inside, stick to the light, and you'll find a ladder that will take you right up to the Prophet straight away. Do give it my best. Best of luck. Do check in now and again, won't you?
Cool. So I'm gonna skip over this stuff. But yeah.
Cadwell seems to think this Undercroft is a delightful place. Probably means it's a death trap. Better be careful.
Cool. And so now we have an area that kind of tucks away out of view. And Lyris charges ahead to that area, and she's got a big marker over her head. So that's another way of kind of guiding players through things. You also have, if you'll notice, so let's go back to where Caldwell is. So if I'm looking this way, because you know I'm introduced to him here, and I'm looking this way, there's a lot of light in that area, and you can use light to guide your players. Is the pot on his head, you think, Wait, is the pot hat a joke, you think, on players doing that? Oh, yeah, that's funny. I never thought about that. Yeah, placing the pots and pans and stuff on heads of NPCs in Skyrim to... It could be a joke. It could be clever. So, as I'm walking up, I get a lockpick. So, you know, they're setting me up to be able to do this.
The sooner you get that door open, the sooner we can get out of here.
Okay, so now I know I need to open this door. If it wasn't already obvious by the marker and the thing that tells me I need to unlock it, she lets me know, hey, if you unlock this, we can get out of here. And I'm given a minute to try and do this. So, new mechanic, and I'm a new player, and I have at the bottom plenty of time to read. Okay, I depress the pin. I can force the lock for a 100% chance to get through for the people who struggle with it. And I can move the pick around. And I broke my one lockpick, but look, I have another. So, again, the game's setting you up for success. It's not going to let you fail early on, so that you can continue to progress through the game. Cool. I don't know why I turned around to look at Lyris. Like she's an NPC, of course she's following me. So I'm normally I'd stop and look at chests and stuff, but I'm gonna play the role of the dumb player who is new and doesn't know that there's things to pick up along the way. And I'm given my first enemy in a while. Cool. And so, you know, earlier Cadwell says, hold your breath. So that might be a hint that these are traps. You can actually walk through them, you're fine. They've iterated on this area quite a bit. That used to be like a poisonous gas that would toggle on and off. And so now I'm going this way, and my map marker keeps moving around on my compass. Easy enough to check where I'm going. I don't want to rest of stuff. Search the urn, take the lockpick. So, this is one of the other things that I like that they did. So as you walk through here, that chest is pretty obvious. So even if you miss it, you know, that there are other chests. That one is right in front of your face before you go on. Just kind of helping to sell to you that, like, watch out for these, they have loot. You know, it's very well lit. You have a minor obstacle to get through, so it teaches you about those mechanics pretty early. And you have another obstacle to get through to get up to the door, so no matter what, it's teaching you about traps. I should probably equip those boots. And the urn is empty.
Prophet's cage should be just ahead. Quickly now, we haven't much time. All right. The good news is we made it here in one piece, and the Prophet looks unharmed. Now the bad news. It's going to be up to you to keep him safe and get him back to Tamriel. I'm not going with you.
So, this is another thing that they've done to help kind of give the player a continued call to action. So she says, I'm not going with you. You fought alongside Lyris, you've kind of developed a little bit of a bond with her as a player. And now you find out that you're going to have to leave her behind to get the guy you came here to get. So
there's a trick to opening the cell. The only way for a prisoner to leave is for another living soul to take their place. I need to swap places with the Prophet. Believe me, I wish there was, but I don't see anyone else here with a beating heart, do you? If Molag Bal isn't stopped, he'll destroy everyone and everything we've ever loved.
So they're setting up the big bad for you. Molag Bal, gotta kill that guy. He's just gonna, we need to stop him before he destroys everything.
Once it's done, get moving. The Prophet will know where to go, but he'll need your eyes and your protection.
That's pretty obvious that this guy pops up. He even comes to me. Now, the big red on the ground, it is relatively obvious that you shouldn't stand in it, but I think that they could have maybe done a little bit more just to help people understand. Yeah, so like right there, you got status effects, but it doesn't tell you don't stand in red. You know, doing that alone would have been really useful for early players. It's like, okay, I get that I was applied with the status effect, but not that standing in red is how I got the status effect. Again, you have to assume that these things aren't implicit. So now they're teaching you that these are things that you want to close, because later in the game, you're going to be taking down dark anchors. And we'll probably get to that in the next PlayStation. I don't know that we'll get to that in this one. But yeah, so it's one of those things where, you know, you see these things, they open up, okay, I know I can close these, and stuff happens.
Freedom! I remember this feeling. It will be fleeting, though, if Molag Bal has his way. Thank the Divines you are safe. There is that, at least. Lyris sacrificed everything that we might go free. Her sacrifice must not be in vain.
Yeah, that is a pretty serious sacrifice. But it also, it kind of illustrates that, you know, these two people matter significantly. You know, so for Lyris to sacrifice herself like that, you know, you get the idea that
I wish that were possible, but I promise you,
she understands how important the Prophet is.
We'll find a way to rescue her together, Vestige. That is the name I have given you. You are but a trace of your former self, a soulless one, an empty vessel that longs to be filled. It is as the scrolls foretold, but not exactly as I imagined.
So I like that they have this little moment. There are players who they like to roleplay, and they like to have a backstory for their character, and by, you know, being a trace of your former self, a soulless one, an empty vessel that longs to be filled, like, that leaves plenty of room for you to decide your character's origins, so that you can, if you want to be a role player, an RPer, as I'll refer to it later, you can do that, and there's plenty of bandwidth for you to explore that however you want.
That is what I've come to be called. My true name is lost even to me. Years of torment have taken their toll. Quickly now, we must make haste to the anchor.
Cool. And so this is where they introduce dark anchors, which are presented to you throughout your gameplay in this world.
The anchors are Daedric machines of the darkest magic. Their chains bind our world and pull it towards Cold Harbor. I can use one of these anchors to return us to Tamriel, but you must lead me to it. Up the stairs, quickly! We must get to the anchor mooring!
Yeah, I'm still eager to see if they ever tell you that you can switch to third-person view.
There it is! The dark anchor mooring.
The mortal thinks it can defy me. Futile. Soon your world will be in my chains.
So this is another...
I will protect you.
This is another great tutorial moment with the Child of Bones. For a few reasons. So it does this thing where it stun locks you. And you have to break free. You can't, it doesn't ever expire like some stun locks do. And you can see that it keeps doing a little damage to you, but not so much that it could kill you if you weren't ever to see this tooltip. So I break free, and I can go back to wailing on this dude. Cool. And I search him, and I get some gold, and a collar of bones, so, you know, you get your first, you know, high health, kind of difficult enemy. Early on, you, as a player, should feel relatively accomplished by that, by being able to take that on. And I'll go ahead and equip that too. Yeah.
The dark anchor's portal is high above us. I will prepare a spell to lift us to it. But first, you must reattune yourself to Nan in order to regain your physical form. To do this, you will need a sky shard.
So this is another way to introduce players to... so they have this mechanic throughout the game to allow players more ways to improve their character, and it's this collectible called sky shards. And, you know, before you even get out into the world, you're introduced to this thing.
A shard of ethereal magicka that carries the essence of Nan. Some link them to Lorcan, the missing god of creation. If you collect and absorb its power, it should restore your corporeal form. I will summon one of these shards for you to absorb. Shard of Aetherius, fall upon us now and anoint us with your blessing.
Alright, so it tells you...
Collect the sky shard.
So it tells you that it restores some of your corporeal form. And so you're like, okay, yeah, like, absolutely, that sounds like a thing I should do. And now I get the tooltip. These are scattered throughout Tamriel. Keep track of them in your achievements. So I'm introduced to two mechanics at the same time. I have an achievements menu, and I should look for sky shards.
Let the will of Molag Bal be denied. Hurry! We must go now!
Oh, actually, playing like a new player. Okay, so I see that he runs up there and he starts leaving. So now I know I should do the same thing. Yeah, I would have changed it to say something about gaining knowledge, or something to that effect, just so that maybe players who miss the tooltip think that they can level up or improve by getting them. Just to kind of help guide them in that direction a little bit more. but overall, not bad.
The vestige awakens once again. Come here. We must speak.
So immediately load into a new area, and it says discovered. And so something I'll bring up throughout these sessions is Bartle's taxonomy of players, or Bartle's archetypes. And, you know, there's these 4 different types of players that play games, or players can be broken up into these 4 different categories. So you have killers, and they act on players. You have achievers, and they like to act on the world. You have socializers, they like to interact with players, and you have explorers who like to interact with the world. And so, you know, earlier it told me I can see this under my achievements menu. Cool. I've appealed to achievers within the first hour of gameplay. Next, I'm told I discovered something, and I got experience for it. So I know that I can run around the world and just discover things, and I'll be rewarded. So explorers now have a reason to keep playing the game within their first hour of play. So the 2 that haven't been appealed to yet are socializers, specifically. Killers, somewhat, they get to kill some NPCs, but there are those that, you know, prefer PvP content, and they're not rewarded immediately, but they will be in a bit, or a bit later on. And socializers, it's kind of the same thing. So,
As I feared, we arrived in different locations.
moving
I am
forward.
in a city near the sea, in a land of eternal spring. The air smells of the ocean and of markets and gardens. It matters not. You have awakened once again, and we must set you on your path.
Are Sky Shards the only way to level? They are not. They are just an additional way to gain skill points. So you collect 3, you get a skill point, which you can then spend to get more abilities, get more passives, whatever. But yeah, so I think this is a great bit of dialogue that he has here. It matters not. You are awakened once again, and we must set you on your path. So they kind of, like, they're still kind of doing that call to action for the main quest. Like, it doesn't matter about how pretty this world is. It's at risk. I need you to go and do these things so that, you know, we can save the world.
Days, weeks, I cannot tell. The voids between worlds disrupted all sense of time and space. I know only that you were deposited into the sea, and some charitable soul fished you out and brought you to dry land. I'm afraid you will have to decide that for yourself. I must focus on searching for a way to repay Lyris's bold sacrifice. I cannot simply abandon her to the wrath of Molag Bal. I cannot foresee that, not yet. But we will meet again. There is still much we need to accomplish.
Okay, so I did the bare minimum to get through the tutorial area. So I see that I've completed that quest. I'm rewarded for that, and I get a skill point for completing the quest, as well as a sealed urn. So now this kind of introduces players to more inventory management stuff. So I'll complete the quest.
Be wary, Vestige. Our very plane of existence is in peril. The threat of Molag Bal looms across all Tamriel, and chaos spreads in its shadow.
I see that I can level up by completing quests, and I see that when I level up, I gain more skill points. And then I see that I can gain additional skill lines. So it's like all these things at once. Like, you did a thing, let's reward you. Very early on, it's a lot of positive reinforcement for all the things that you do. Very little punishment for the player, which is a great way to design for new players for MMOs. So,
you must find your own path.
moving forward.
But perhaps there is a reason for the place in which you find yourself. Explore, search for a cause to lend your hand. Join with others. You might even seek out those who rescued you from the sea. The choice is yours.
Okay, so now I've got a few things like, you think there are many who would need my help. Who should I join up with?
We do not face these troubled times alone. Many shall rise up to fight this tide of darkness. Wherever you go, you will encounter others who share your courage and valor. Help them if you can, and enlist their aid if you have need of it.
So now I learned that, I'm being taught that I can interact with other NPCs, maybe other players. I'm not really sure yet, but I can get other people to help me on my quest to defeat Molag Bal. I'm just going to skip the other dialogue option just so that we can get into things. Cool. So I gained a skill point, leveled up, and I'm going to go ahead and spend that right now. So what I just spent was an attribute point for those who aren't familiar with Elder Scrolls. But yeah, so I'm going to do 1 in Dawn's Wrath, so I can level that as well. And 1 in Adric Spear. Cool. And this guy hangs around so that you can keep asking him questions. You're introduced early on to stealing as well. So the area where you spawn, everything can be stolen with no consequence. There's no one here to spot you with this guy, and he's not going to do a thing about it if you steal anything. He doesn't care. So you kind of get an introduction to that immediately as well. I assume to help players realize it is bad to steal, or that there are repercussions, so that they don't accidentally steal something, or they're less likely to steal something thinking there are no repercussions, rather. And right away,
this one needs to speak.
I walk outside, and I see that this guy has a quest marker over his head. Let's see what my... Yeah, that's it. That's all I would see right away. And then this is player, so I see that there's other players I can interact with. That guy just died. So as soon as you see that for the first time, you realize you can die and you can resurrect people. Seeing the red text lets me know I can't resurrect him because I don't have a filled whatever that thing is. But yeah, so let's do this real quick.
Welcome to Canarti's Roost, friend. The hurricane must have been very disorienting. So many injured, confused.
I'm just going to skip through some of this dialogue now that I'm out of the tutorial.
Question. Where did you come from?
So now I know that's how I pick up quests. Started, Storm on the New Horizon. So now you're introduced to this mechanic where you realize, oh, cool. Like, if I talk to people with the black marker over their head, I can pick up a new quest.
If you want a Daedric prince, you say.
So now you have your first dialogue option where you get to lie.
You seem clean as an ocean breeze.
Letting you know that, you can be deceitful throughout the game.
Confidence, a straight face and a gleam in your eye. Well done.
And if you choose to lie, he says, yes, lie with confidence, letting you know you kind of failed that check, which lets players know that they can fail to persuade or to lie or to intimidate. Now, the other thing that's, I think, very crucial about this is you step up and you see this broken tower. And as you walk up to Razumdar, who was here... maybe not. Okay, so... as I follow Razumdar... no. Okay, well, I'll just knock this out.
Ilsil is this way.
There we go. So as you approach the tower, you see this big white pillar of light. And they use that to let you know sky shards are this direction. Which is something you want to collect, and right away you can go collect another one.
I could use a break.
So you get a very quick introduction to, hey, this is what to watch out for. You should look for these things. And that one's not 100% obvious. You might not think to look up as a new player, but it's in an easy-to-get-to location. It's right after you exit, the tutorial area. you have enough knowledge as a new player
Yes.
to know that you can hunt for these things, and you're immediately rewarded
Before you depart,
by
let's
just
move
kind
by
of
the
looking
statues
around.
north of Ka. There, you see? You fit in and no one will stop you from walking away.
Alright,
Oh, there's far...
cool. So I've completed that thing, and now I'm given other objectives. So, the thing that I think is really cool is he ends up over here facing the opposite direction you were before. So before you come out, you're facing this way, and there's not a lot to see in these directions on your compass. He stops here, and you now see a big temple with an eye with an eye on your compass. And that's enough for new players to realize, hey, you know, it's a nice subtle hint, hey, you can discover something in this direction. Interestingly, let's see how this is introduced. So, take that. They don't quite teach it the way I wish they would. So, I would have liked for there to be, if I was the designer on this, I would have had some kind of tooltip that comes up that lets you know you can collect resources throughout the world to craft things. And I would have done that right there. But yeah. Right, so I run up and, I discover something. I'm rewarded again. The one thing that I like that they did is you can immediately, if you want to, as a new player, fast travel somewhere else in the game. And they kind of introduce you to way shrines. Oh, here's how this works. Here's what the system is. And for the recall thing, they'll let you know that it's going to cost a small fee, so that if you try to do it, from your world map, you're not like, well, what the heck? Why do I have to pay money for this? Like, it's shown to you right away, right up front. You know that that's how it works. So you have options. You can see your quests. That shows you quests in that area. You can go to locations and look at different places. It's a little bit of promise of things to come. You can filter out different things. So I don't have a lot on my map right now, but later on when my map is full of stuff, I understand that I can filter down to just what I want to see. But before doing that, a new player would probably explore the place that they had just discovered, because they were rewarded for that with experience points. So why not keep exploring? And right away, another sky shard. And so there was one in the tower down there, there was one in the tutorial, and there's one right here. And so for the diligent player, they're immediately rewarded with yet another skill point. So this area also has a few other things that it kind of teaches players. It's your first kind of introduction to a hub. Some kind of... You've got some NPCs, and I have my first merchant.
Weapons, freshly imported from the mainland.
And I can see that I have store. So I know moving forward throughout the game, even if I have dialogue options, I'll have store and then what kind of store it is to let me know that I can go right into the store immediately. So I can see repair all. So if it's my first time visiting a merchant, I now know my armor or something takes damage. So I can look at it and go over to the repair tab, and I see, oh, okay, some of the stuff I was wearing took some damage. I'm not going to repair this because none of this stuff has any armor value. But normally that's one of the first things I do. So you can see there's trash. You can sell that. Oh yeah, let's open that thing I got. I'm sure that drove some people crazy, or will drive somebody crazy watching this in the future. The textures, animations, world still look great for an engine that is a few years old when they released the project or product. Yeah. I mean, it's a good looking game. I don't know that it's
Those are Dominion marking
necessarily. I'm gonna run away from the NPCs while I do some of this. I don't know that it's necessarily a new engine. It may be an engine that they've used in the past. I think it's on Havoc, which is their physics engine.
Hope no more get into the camp.
But for their GDK, I don't know that it's 100% new. Let me just get away from NPCs so I don't have them talking while I'm doing stuff. Alright, so inventory. Cool, so I've got the sealed urn. Lets me know your name is burned into the side or whatever. So this is one thing that I think that they did extremely well. You're given more lockpicks because new players might not have that mechanic down for picking locks, but they're going to encounter plenty of things where they'll need to, and you don't want them to break their lockpick, the only one that they have, and not be able to open things again. Because if they break their first one, it looks like they get to just keep them. So you give them more, you understand, oh, I can have more of these things. And they stack, so I know they won't take up too much inventory space. So right away, you get a weapon that has training, which is good. Lets players know that they can get weapons and armor with different kind of effects on them. If you have somebody who chooses to use a bow or wants to do that, they are able to quickly train that skill. And then same thing for their armor. So they can quickly train their light armor skill tree. So it helps with leveling players more quickly. So that they can, feel competent, feel confident, grow more quickly and be better at the game. So I'm going to use the robe for now. And then let me use this. Let's see. Oh, this is another thing. So I very quickly got to 4 in Restoring Light, and I see that there's another ability that's opened up. So I now know, I can use this right away. The other thing that they did that's really good is in red text above abilities that aren't yet unlocked, it lets you know where they will unlock. So as a new player that doesn't really understand when to put points where, let's say I'm level 19 in Restoring Light and I have a skill point and I want Restoring Aura, I know that I can save for that when I level that up. But I will go with something. Oh, actually, while I'm at it, let's assign this. I don't want to do that. I think I want to go sword and board and try and do a tank. I might want a two-hand on my back bar, though. Yeah, I'll do that. But yeah. And the other thing that I think is done really well is you're not overwhelmed with choice at the beginning. So when you first get your first skill point, you have really these 3 options. So you got an ability that is for damage, another ability that doesn't have a roll assigned to it, and then an ability that is for healing. So you kind of get an idea early on, at least with this character class, hey, these are what I want to do. Now the roll thing, I think, should, aside from the symbol, should also say damage, and not just the symbol. That would, I think, be a better way to convey that to new players who don't necessarily know what the symbols mean. still helps reinforce that certain abilities are used for certain roles, or are more effective in certain roles. But yeah. So we are at 8 o'clock. I'm going to cut the stream off. I'm going to try to make these very digestible and short. So been streaming for an hour. Gotten through the tutorial. And next time, we'll, keep progressing, working on this character. And go over more of how MMOs can introduce new players to their content and to how their stuff works. But yeah, it's been real. It's been fun. Thanks for the people who showed up. Thanks, Sinks, again for being active in the chat. That's always appreciated. It's nice to interact with somebody rather than just talk to myself. But yeah, hope everybody has a good night. And thanks again to Silence and Cocoa Pips for following. Have a good one.